Hi everybody and welcome back to Borderlines. So today I thought I'd speak about mortgages. Now before I get started, the first thing I'm going to say, I am not a financial advisor, so do not take this as financial advice. So what I've done is taken a look at a lot of data, okay, banks own data themselves, because it's been in the headlines, but there's a trend going at the moment where a lot of people are taking up on 95% mortgages. For those that don't know what a 95% mortgage is, where the bank lends you 95% of the money towards buying a property, first property, and you only put a 5% deposit down, because days are long gone of when you can get 100% mortgage. Most of them in recent years have been 90% mortgages, and what they found is that it's the most amount of people, as in first-time buyers, that are buying since 2008. Now, so what we've gone and done is had a look at 4 high street banks stroke building societies, okay, and had a look, is it beneficial? Are you better off taking out a 95% mortgage than a 90% mortgage? So for those that don't know, in the UK currently, the average house price is just over 267,000 to buy a 3-bedroom house, because that's the most popular type of house to buy. It's a 3-bedroom house. So this is straight across England. Okay, so we've gone with 267 grand and then used the bank's calculators. So we've taken a look at Nationwide, HSBC, Lloyds, Santander and Halifax. Okay, and what we found is they're all quite similar. And when I say quite similar, I mean very similar. Okay, so if you was to take a look at basically putting down £26,700, okay, which is 10%, to buy a house. Okay, so the bank's going to lend you the rest of the money. Okay, you can get relatively decent interest rates, where no matter which one of them banks you look at, they're all quite similar. If you look at Santander and Halifax, okay, 3-year fixed, 4.88% interest you're going to be paying. Okay, you're looking at paying about £1,570 a month. Go to Nationwide, okay, £1,577.92, so you can pay slightly more. You could be paying at 4.94%. That's based on a 3-year fixed rate. HSB, you're paying 1,518 approximately, depending on the conditions. Okay, if you go to a 5-year fixed rate, and this is where it gets interesting, okay, there's still next to nothing in it. You know, Nationwide, Lloyds, Santander and Halifax, you're looking at 17, no, sorry, Lloyds is slightly cheaper. You know, you're basically looking at 25 quid in it between the 3 of them each month. So there's next to nothing in it. You know, the interest rates range from 4.5% to 4.65%. So, like I say, there's nothing in it. But this is the interesting point. It's when you go and consider taking a 95% mortgage out, is when you're going to get hit. Okay, so if you take, for instance, Nationwide, okay, and you do a 3-year fixed rate, okay, 3 years fixed rate, okay, if you're doing putting up 10%, you're at 4.94%. Okay, if you go with a 5% that you're putting up, that interest rate jumps straight up to 5.34%. Okay, and that's the nicest one. You know, Santander are at nearly 5.5%. They're at 5.44%. Halifax 5.29%. You know, so the question is it worth taking out a 95% mortgage. Because it's like I spoke to somebody. Now, I don't own my own home. I've got nowhere near enough money to be able to afford it. Okay, and I've spent a lot of my life on the sick, being signed off sick repeatedly, because I suffered brain damage when I was younger. And no, I don't want your sympathy, so don't bother. But the reality is, in my book, go and buy the figures, it's not worth it. The only time I'd say it's actually worth doing it is if you're a first-time buyer, you can't get on the property ladder, you desperately want to get on the property ladder, okay, and you've got to be realistic about how much money you can actually realistically save. So if it's a case that you urgently want to get on there and you want to buy your first home, and I can understand that, everybody wants to be able to afford to buy their own home. You know, my kids moan at me all the time saying, Daddy, can we go and buy our own home? The reality is, can't afford it at the end of the day. But if you're in that boat and you're in that position, and let's say, for instance, you've got 25 grand in the bank, you've been doing a bit well for yourself, you may have come into some inheritance due to a member of your family passing on, or a friend, or something like that, and somebody's giving you some money, then I can understand you wanting to reinvest that and go and buy your first house. Would I say, personally, you're better off carrying on saving up and reducing the interest rate? Me personally, I would say you are. That's my personal opinion. I'm not going to give you any advice on doing that. But the one thing that has come out is I'm actually shell-shocked the difference that you're going to face in paying in interest based on the rates that they are at the moment. Okay, and obviously I haven't looked at Nationwide or Barclays, you know, because obviously can't get their interest rates on their websites at the moment. But it is quite ironic what you do face. So let us know what you think. Do you think you are better off going with a 95% mortgage, or saving a bit more money as quick as you can at the end of the day to go with a 90%? So let us know in the comments what you personally think. Obviously, if you are new to the channel, if you could subscribe as well, I would appreciate that as well. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you again a bit later.